Ladies and gentlemen, where has the law gone in this country? Have those in alleged places of authority forgotten that we do have law in this land? Because it seems to be that way. It really does. The lockdowns, the travel restrictions, the this, the that, we've spoken about it all before. Where does it say in law that you can't travel further than 5Ks or whatever the distance might be from your home? Where does it say in law that you have to stay inside and do as they say? Where does it say it? And where do they get the authority to put that over us? To make sure that people are just doing as they say? Where is your authority coming from? I've asked the question before. You don't have it. You do not have the authority to tell the people how to live their lives. So, if there aren't actually any laws that are making us stay inside and do as they say, and people are forcing this upon us as if it is law, be it the premiers or their foot soldiers, even the military, the police. Now, I'm not calling anyone an outlaw here. I'm not saying anyone's an outlaw, but if you're trying to make up your own things as if they're law and push it on the people, you make up your own mind. Does it seem like they're acting as outlaws? And I'm going to read you the definition of terrorism. Simple, you can look it up on Google. That's all. I just looked it up on there and you'll find it for yourself. The definition of terrorism: the unlawful use of violence and intimidation, especially against civilians in pursuit of political aims. What does that sound like? The unlawful use of violence and intimidation sounds familiar. I think I've seen some videos of some unlawful use of violence and intimidation. I think I've seen some people in uniform using unlawful use of violence and intimidation. I think some of those people at the top might be using unlawful use of violence and intimidation to push their political agenda. So, are those at the top of this chain, are they actually domestic terrorists? I'm not calling anyone a terrorist here. I'm not naming any names. I'm not pointing fingers, but I'm saying that's the definition of terrorism, and it kind of sounds familiar. It kind of sounds familiar. And you idiots, you're all out there. It's all on camera. We're watching you. We're watching you. Do you think we're not sitting back here going, okay, we see. We see. We're watching you commit crimes against the people. Against the people of Australia. Blatantly committing crimes. Now, I'm not saying, as I said, I'm not saying anyone is a terrorist, but you're at least the enemy of the people. If you've turned on the people, you're at least the enemy of the people. So, what are some federal offences that are committed when you're stopped in your right to travel? So, if you're moseying on down the street or down the highway and someone pulls you up because you're past your 5K zone, what's really going on? Well, here we go. Some federal offences. Federal offences committed in stopping you exercising your inherent right to travel. We've got trespass of your time, your property, and even your name because your name is your own property. Your name is confidential. It's private information, and private information does not have to be released to the public. If you're being pulled over and you're being harassed, what are your details? Where do you live? So on and so forth. That's harassment, a breach of the peace. If you're threatened with arrest for not giving away your name or whatever it might be, there's a threat with menace and potentially even assault. What constitutes an assault? Well, that could be a threat that you think you could be seriously harmed or endangered, because it's likely that the one who's making demands on you has a gun attached to their hip. So, at the very least, it's a threat with menace. False detainment, false arrest, and possibly false imprisonment if you're taken away. Where's your warrant? You can't be just getting around arresting people on the streets if they haven't committed a crime. What's it say here? We've got Clause 39, Magna Carta. I've read it before, I'll read it again. No free man shall be taken or imprisoned or seized or exiled in any way or in any way destroyed, nor will we go upon him or send upon him except by the lawful judgment of his peers or by law of the land. So you can't be just getting around arresting people. Doesn't work like that. Where's your warrant? Where is it? Also, it's assault if you're just cruising around smashing people unnecessarily. So there's that. A number of laws are being broken on the daily. They're just cruising around, breaking the law, and they don't care. But we're watching. Like I said, we are watching. Do you think we're not taking notes of all of this? You idiots. Idiots. There are no laws to enforce home detention. Said it before, mandates are not law. You can't get away with what you're doing. So, what are some tools at our disposal that we can rely on to exercise our rights to freedom of movement and travel? Now, here's a couple of things that you can look at. Here's one that's probably the highest jurisdiction there is. It says in the Bible, as a man or a woman, you are to go forth into the world and multiply. Go forth into the world. Not sit in your house with a mask on, scared to step outside your door. Go forth into the world. You have dominion over the earth. There's one. So, there's also the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And within that, there's Article 13. Now, Article 13 says, everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Everyone has the right to leave any country and return to their own country. We got Article 42 of Magna Carta, the right to travel. It shall be lawful to any person for the future to go out of our kingdom and to return safely and security by land and water. Bovier's Law Dictionary. Highways are for the use of the travelling public, and all have the right to use them in a reasonable manner. The use thereof is an inalienable right of every citizen. So, where is your law saying that we can't travel past 5Ks? Where is it? You don't have it. The people are watching, and the people have had enough. The people have had enough. the whole show is going to come down. And it's going to come down hard on those who have turned their backs on the people of this country. So, those in the force, you better decide what side of history you want to be on. Because it's time for you to make the decision. Are you serving the people? Or are you serving another master? And same goes for those in the parliament. Those who serve another master and not their constituents may be found guilty of treason. And treason doesn't have a happy ending for those who are found guilty of committing it. It's only a matter of time, folks. It's only a matter of time. We won't stand for the rubbish any longer. And the tides are turning. The tides are turning because more and more people are working this out. The further you push the Australian people back against the wall, the harder we're going to push back. So, if I was someone who had virtually declared myself an enemy of the people, I would be very scared. I'd be shaking in my boots. If I was a premier who was making unlawful judgments and making people do things that are not lawful, it's going to come back around. The old law of karma. What goes around comes around. So enjoy it when it hits you, because it's going to hit you hard.